What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MyMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about Oh Canada. Yes, the national anthem to a country. I'm going to dissect it and break it down for you, as movie critics do. Um, it's actually a review of a Paul Schrader movie. So, in case you haven't heard of this movie, it exists. It is there in the ether of film for you to find and discover. As Go forth, young man, go forth. Uh, this was presented for my consideration for awards, and believe me, I actually would have legitimately loved to say fuck yes, because Richard Gere's never been nominated for an Academy Award. And to say that feels weird. Especially when you're like, wait a minute, wasn't he nominated for Chicago? No, he wasn't. No. Nope. Nope. Wasn't nominated for Officer and a Gentleman. Wasn't nominated for, I don't know, whatever you think he was nominated for. He wasn't nominated for it. And he's done some pretty solid work. If I could single out one film, I don't know how it fit into that year because I'm just running this on the fly. I would single out Arbitrage. He was really good in that, and I just think it was too small of a movie for him to really register on anything. He also did a movie called Time Out of Mind, or Time Out of My Mind, something like that. And where he played sort of like a homeless man, like struggling through, and he was really good in that too. Like he's trying. He's really like he's just waving his hands. He's like, "Can I get an Oscar nomination before I die, please?" Not that he's close to death, but he is getting up there. And at some point, it would be nice if somebody could give him a role that would actually lead to an Oscar nomination. He co-stars here with Uma Thurman and Jacob Elordi, so there should be enough buzz around this movie, but there just is no buzz around this movie. Sadly, there's also no audio description, so we can, as a blind film critic, if you've subscribed to this channel, you know where this is headed. So Gere plays a man who is a draft dodger that's sitting down for an interview to sort of demystify his life on camera officially in interview form. It felt very Wes Anderson to me, but not quite. It felt almost like we were trying to do Wes Anderson, like somebody was like trying to come up on him. And then because I didn't listen, I watch a lot of movies, and honestly, I do not sit there and go, who directed this? Who's behind this? Who's in this? I just literally click on movies, man. Sometimes I just dive into movies. I didn't know it was Paul Schrader. So I was like, this feels like somebody is trying to copy Wes Anderson. Like there's a little bit of quirk in there, just a little bit of that deadpan delivery that Anderson's characters often have. And then it was Paul Schrader, and I was like, wait a minute, Paul Schrader has his own thing. Like, why does he feel so similar to Wes Anderson in this movie? It just doesn't make any sense. It's not all the way Wes Anderson. I'm not going to say that. It doesn't feel like, but it feels like it feels like I was expecting this to be like a young director who was just starting out, who, if I found an interview with them on YouTube, they would have been like, my biggest influences are Wes Anderson. And I'd be like, yes, they are, obviously. I can pick up on that one right away. Instead of Paul Schrader, who has like, I don't know, a ton of movies under his belt. Just, I think his most recent one was Master Gardener with Joel Edgerton. So, and then the one with Ethan Hawke. Anyway, which was really good. And the name escapes me in the moment. I don't know what I'm going to say on the fly, and then this is not there for me. So just move on. But yeah, it's just like, it's an interview, and then obviously told in flashbacks, with like the younger version of him, which is played by Jacob Elordi. So in case you're wondering, is Jacob Elordi going to grow up? I guess one day he's going to grow up and look like Richard Gere. I don't know. Listen, they're both considered like hot of their generation. So I don't know that this is just, like they found, it could have been Glenn Powell and we would have been fine. I don't know how much they look alike, but, and yeah, we just navigate through his life and tell his life story. It's not very long. It's a little over 90 minutes. Or maybe it felt a little, it was a little bit longer than that. It was close to like an hour 45, actually. Sorry. I didn't want to make it sound too short. I think it's like an hour 45. Um, and there were parts of it that I could understand better than others because they were more dialogue driven. Obviously, Gear does a lot of like narration as he's explaining things because he's the one being interviewed. So that was sort of easy to follow. If I'm sitting here evaluating it for awards consideration, it's easy for me to evaluate Gear's performance because his performance is largely just, let me tell you a story. And that's easy to break down. But the rest of the film sort of around him was a little bit difficult, and trying to pick out. I honestly don't know who Uma Thurman is in this movie. I think I think she's in the interview sequences because she'd be too old to date Jacob Elordi like meaningfully in the movie. I think there's a younger actress that plays a younger version of her. That's just what I'm guessing anyway. So, um, but I don't know. It was a little difficult to understand. Yeah, he has to do the interview, and he's specially requested for this person to be there, but they don't. Everything just kind of comes in, and they don't. Nothing's really established that well. And I've said this in some other reviews. Sighted people never underestimate the ability of facial recognition and what that does for you, because as characters, when we're not using names all the time, it becomes really easy for you to recognize characters. Now, one of the things audio description does is it comes in and it'll say something like, Malcolm walks to the door. He sees Sarah across the room. Sarah looks and sees him. And then we're like, okay, so it's Malcolm and Sarah. And like no words could be spoken in that sequence. And I know who's in that sequence. I know which characters they are. And then throughout the rest of the film, I can keep tracking Malcolm and Sarah. Those are not real names of any characters in this movie, but just as an example, it's it helps substitute for something that so many people take for granted. So that's why I would say audio description would be good. But this is Kino Lorber, and one of the things me and my blind film friends joked about was, oh, well, Kino does not really put audio description on their thing, so it's unlikely that Canada would have it. So I'm not even bothering. This is not a distributor that's known for a consistency in audio description. I'm not going to say they've never done it, but they do physical media and stuff like that, and this is just not a distributor that's known for producing audio description for their titles, so I'm not sure this has it, or has it created. So, I've had worse times at the theaters this year, absolutely, and I've had worse times without audio description, so I'm not going to try to paint it any other way. I'm always honest. I think the film was just around manageable, sort of a little bit below that. Like there was some stuff where I was getting lost and I didn't quite fully follow what was happening due to lack of accessibility. But in general, it feels like it was a good concept, like it was a good idea, and it just didn't quite materialize, you know? Sometimes we sit down and we're like, oh, this is going to make a great movie. And then it just kind of doesn't. And I just think everybody's sort of done better things here and more interesting things. Paul Schrader, Richard Gere, Uma Thurman. I don't think this is a bad movie. Even for Wes Anderson, he has some movies where I'm just like, that wasn't your best, man. You know, you've made better movies. So even if this had been a Wes Anderson movie, it's still, you know, it's like, yeah, it's not his best, but it's not Paul Schrader's best, but it doesn't mean that Paul Schrader's a bad director. And he also didn't make a bad movie here. He just kind of made that was okay. And it's kind of sad because Richard Gere needs a home run. He needs the kind of film that just sends him to the top of the race, that gives him the kind of buzz where it's like, oh man, not only is he fantastic, but did you know Richard Gere's never been nominated for an Oscar? It just like sends him through the race. And this film just was never going to do that for him. So as much as I would have loved to vote for Richard Gere in my various awards that I vote for, I can't because, well, it's It's just not the right time. So, not the right movie. So, put some audio description on it. If you like it, it's like Beyonce, Single Ladies. If you like it, put some audio description on it. Anyway, I'm going to give Oh Canada the grade of unwatchable, because it is, because I'm a blind film critic and I can't actually endorse this to anybody who's like me, which is the reason why I'm here, is to talk about audio description, accessibility, how blind people watch movies, all that kind of thing. So I wouldn't pass this through, so to speak. And but if you want to know what like a floating grade would be, where I think this movie would end up, I would say B-, which gives like a range of like a C+ to maybe a B on the high end. I don't think I would flunk this movie. I don't see this movie going lower than at least a C. You know, I mean, like, the audio description would have to be describing some really weird shit for me to take this film lower than a C+. Like, it's about, like, connecting the dots, you know, and I need dots connected at this point. And it's like I see dots and I can see where they are in terms of story and acting, and I can have sort of an educated guess of where this movie would land, but it's a range. So somewhere around in there. In case sighted people are like, but I need to know, can I see it? Is it good? I think probably, but it's going to be like a one-time watch. I don't think anybody's going to obsessively watch this movie. But I know people will be interested in it because of the cast and because of Paul Schrader. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the other side.